Did you know the average home holds over 300,000 items? For seniors, that's a lifetime of memories and a whole lot of stuff. Feeling overwhelmed? You're not alone. But here's the good news. Decluttering doesn't have to be stressful or leave you regretting decisions. In fact, most mistakes can be avoided with a few simple strategies. Are you unintentionally keeping clutter that's draining your space, energy, and peace of mind? Stay tuned, because today we'll reveal the 8 most common decluttering mistakes seniors make and how to fix 99% of them. Let's get started. Meet Diane, a retired teacher in her 70s who spent decades building a home filled with memories. From her children's artwork to her late husband's cherished belongings, Diane's house told the story of her life. But when Diane decided it was time to downsize and simplify, she quickly realized something. Her home wasn't just filled with memories, it was also filled with clutter. And like so many others, she felt overwhelmed. At first, Diane tried tackling everything at once, thinking she could handle it alone. But instead of progress, she found herself drowning in decisions and making some common decluttering mistakes that turned the process into a complete nightmare. She ended up keeping things she didn't need, throwing out items she later regretted, and ultimately feeling stuck. Sound familiar? But here's the good news. Diane turned things around, and so can you. By learning a few simple strategies, she not only decluttered her home but also rediscovered the peace and joy she'd been missing for years. So if you've ever felt like your stuff is holding you back, or like the idea of decluttering is just too overwhelming, stick with me, because today I'm going to walk you through the same steps Diane used to transform her home and her life. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel for more life advice tailored specifically for seniors. Your support helps us create content that inspires and empowers you every step of the way. Now let's get started. Mistake number 1. Trying to declutter everything at once. Diane was excited to start her decluttering journey. She imagined herself walking through her home, room by room, clearing away the years of accumulated items. In her mind, it would be a weekend project, just a couple of days to tackle everything and feel the sense of relief that comes with a clutter-free space. But by Sunday afternoon, she was completely wiped out. Her house looked more chaotic than ever, and the task ahead felt impossible. She was exhausted, overwhelmed, and ready to throw in the towel. Sound familiar? Many seniors fall into this trap, believing that decluttering has to happen all at once. We see the clutter, and our minds race with the idea of just getting it over with. But decluttering your entire home in one weekend is simply not realistic. It's like trying to eat a huge meal in one bite. You'll end up choking. Here's the thing. Decluttering doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing endeavor. You don't need to tackle everything at once to see real progress. The secret is to break the process into smaller, manageable goals. Start by focusing on one small area at a time. Maybe it's a single drawer, a shelf in the closet, or a box of old papers. The key is to start small and celebrate each victory. Each little win adds up to a bigger transformation over time. For example, Diane decided to focus on just her kitchen one weekend. She started by clearing out one drawer, just one. She was surprised to find how much easier it was to stay focused when she wasn't trying to clear out every cupboard in sight. The next weekend, she tackled a shelf. Little by little, the clutter started disappearing, and before she knew it, she was making big strides without feeling overwhelmed. This approach works because it's more sustainable. Instead of burning yourself out, you're building momentum. Every small goal you complete gives you a sense of accomplishment and motivates you to keep going. Plus, you're giving yourself the time and energy to make thoughtful decisions about what stays and what goes, rather than rushing through it. Remember, the goal is progress, not perfection. Have you ever tried to declutter everything at once and felt overwhelmed? Tell us about it in the comments below. Mistake number 2. Holding on to sentimental items you'll never use. We all have that box, or maybe even a few boxes, of old photos, souvenirs, and knickknacks that tell the story of our past. These items hold memories of our children's childhood, family vacations, and milestones we'll never forget. But here's the question. Are they bringing you joy, or are they just gathering dust? It's incredibly hard to part with sentimental items. We often feel like letting go of them means we're forgetting the memories they represent. But the truth is, holding on to every single item doesn't preserve those precious memories. Instead, it can overwhelm our space and add unnecessary stress. Diane faced this same challenge. She had a box full of old mementos from her children's school years, letters, drawings, and even trophies that had been tucked away for decades. Each item held a story, and letting them go felt almost impossible. But Diane realized something important. The memories lived in her heart, not in the objects themselves. So she decided to approach the process differently. Instead of keeping every single thing, she started by taking photos of those sentimental items. Things like the colourful birthday cards her kids made for her, the handprint art from preschool, and even the old teacups her grandmother had passed down. Diane found that having a digital collection of these items allowed her to preserve the memories without them taking up precious space in her home. By doing this, Diane was able to keep the most meaningful items, those that truly added value to her life right now, while letting go of the rest. She didn't feel like she was losing the memories. She felt freer and more organized, and she had a sense of peace knowing that the most important pieces were saved in a way that was accessible without the clutter. It's not about getting rid of everything, it's about being selective. Ask yourself, does this item add value to my life right now? Does it bring me joy or peace? Or am I holding on to it out of guilt or habit? Remember, you don't need to keep everything to honor the past. You can preserve the memories in a way that doesn't weigh you down. What's the hardest sentimental item for you to let go of? Share your story in the comments below. We'd love to hear it. Mistake number 3. Not asking for help. Diane, like many of us, believed she had to handle everything on her own. She didn't want to burden her children with the task of sorting through decades of accumulated items, and she thought that asking for help would make her seem incapable. So, she set out to declutter her home solo, believing that she could power through it on her own. But the truth is, after weeks of trying to sort through everything by herself, Diane felt overwhelmed, exhausted and stuck. She wasn't making the progress she had hoped for, and the clutter seemed endless. She began to feel more frustrated than accomplished. That's when Diane had an epiphany. Decluttering doesn't have to be a solo journey. One evening, after a particularly tough day of trying to make decisions, Diane finally called her son, Matt. She was surprised by how quickly he agreed to help, and not just him, but her daughter, Sarah, and even a couple of close friends who were more than willing to lend a hand. With their support, Diane was able to tackle the task in a way that felt lighter and more manageable. Together, they made incredible progress. And Diane found that it wasn't just about the physical decluttering. It was about sharing the experience. It turned into an afternoon of laughter, stories, and even a little nostalgia. Diane's family didn't mind the task. They were happy to help because they understood how important it was for her to move forward. The lesson here is clear. Don't be afraid to reach out for help. Whether it's family, friends, or even a professional organizer, the burden doesn't have to fall solely on your shoulders. Sometimes, an extra pair of hands can make all the difference, and it can turn a potentially stressful task into something much more enjoyable. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, remember, there's no shame in asking for help. It's not about doing it all yourself. It's about creating a process that feels good and gets the job done. Have you ever tried to tackle a big task alone, only to realize you needed help? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear about your experience. Mistake number 4. Keeping things just in case. Raise your hand if you have a drawer full of cords for devices you don't even own anymore. Just in case, right? We've all done it. We hang on to things we might need someday, like that old charger for a phone you replaced 5 years ago, or the random cables that have no apparent purpose. It's easy to justify keeping them. I might need this someday. But let's be honest, those just-in-case items rarely ever get used. Instead, they pile up, taking up space and cluttering your drawers. Diane was guilty of this too. She had a whole collection of mismatched cords, spare buttons, and old kitchen gadgets she might use someday. But guess what? Someday never came. As much as Diane tried to convince herself that these things were essential, they just sat there gathering dust, using up valuable space that could have been put to better use. It wasn't until she realized how much room these forgotten items were taking up that she decided enough was enough. Here's the solution. Create a just-in-case box. Put all the items you're unsure about into this box and give yourself a deadline, say 6 months. If you haven't used or needed those items by the end of that time, it's time to let them go. No more hanging on to things that serve no real purpose. This approach works because it allows you to be decisive without the fear of regret. By setting a deadline, you're giving yourself a realistic time frame to decide what's worth keeping and what's just taking up space. And let's face it, if you haven't needed that extra charger, that spare lampshade, or that stack of random kitchen utensils in months or years, chances are you're never going to need them. But wait, don't go anywhere, because the next mistake is one that surprises almost everyone. Stick around to find out more. Mistake number 5, not having a clear plan for donations or trash. Diane ran into another problem that many people face when decluttering. She ended up with piles of items she didn't want, but she didn't know where to take them. Her dining room quickly turned into a temporary holding area for bags and boxes filled with things like old clothes, household goods, and books. The problem? These piles weren't helping her declutter. They were just adding more chaos and clutter to her space. Every time she walked by them, she felt a little more overwhelmed, as if the decluttering process was never really moving forward. The solution is simple. Plan ahead. Before you start decluttering, take some time to research local charities, recycling programs, and trash pickup services in your area. Know where you can take things for donation, what can be recycled, and what should be discarded. This way, you're not left wondering where to put everything once it's sorted. Diane learned this lesson the hard way. She finally took the time to map out nearby donation centres, recycling drop-offs, and trash collection services. The next time she had a pile of items ready to go, she knew exactly where to take them, and it made the process so much smoother. Having a clear plan in place allowed her to declutter efficiently and without the stress of figuring out what to do with everything once it was in the donate pile. Another tip: consider setting a timeline for getting those items out of your home. Don't let them linger. Once you've decided to part with something, don't give yourself a chance to second guess. Pack it up and get it out the door as soon as possible. This helps prevent the feeling of "I might need this someday" from creeping back in. So take a few minutes to research your options before you start your decluttering journey. It will save you time and stress in the long run. What's your favourite place to donate items? Let us know below. It might help someone else out there who's looking for a good place to give. Mistake number 6, forgetting to celebrate progress. Diane's journey to declutter wasn't just about clearing out items. It was about reclaiming space, peace, and control. But as she got deeper into the process, she made a mistake that many people do. She got so focused on finishing the job that she forgot to stop and appreciate how far she'd come. Diane was too caught up in the end goal, and she didn't take the time to celebrate the small victories along the way. Every drawer she cleared, every shelf she organized, and every bag of items she donated was progress, but she didn't recognize it. Instead, she only saw the clutter she still had to tackle. This is a common mistake, especially when we're trying to make a big change in our lives. We often overlook the effort we've already put in and get discouraged by how much is left to do. But here's the thing: every step counts. Decluttering is not a race, it's a process, and each small victory is worth celebrating. To avoid burnout and maintain motivation, Diane started setting small milestones for herself. After clearing out her guest room, for example, she treated herself to a nice lunch at her favorite cafe. After finishing a closet full of old clothes, she enjoyed a quiet movie night with a cup of tea. These little rewards not only gave Diane the emotional boost she needed, but they also helped her stay focused on the positive aspects of the decluttering process. So, here's the solution. Set milestones along the way and celebrate them. Whether it's treating yourself to a special activity or simply taking a moment to reflect on how much you've accomplished, celebrating your progress helps keep the momentum going. Remember, decluttering isn't just about getting rid of stuff. It's about creating a life that feels lighter, more peaceful, and more aligned with who you are right now. By acknowledging each step, you'll stay motivated and energized, rather than feeling defeated by the tasks ahead. Have you ever forgotten to celebrate your progress? What little victories do you like to reward yourself for? Share in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Mistake number 7. Decluttering without a vision. When Diane first began her decluttering journey, she didn't have a clear vision of what she wanted her home to feel like after it was all done. She knew she was tired of the clutter, but she didn't take the time to define the why behind her efforts. And as a result, her motivation started to fade. Without a clear picture of what she was working toward, the task began to feel aimless and overwhelming. Here's the truth. Decluttering without a vision is like going on a road trip without a destination. You might make some progress, but you'll eventually get lost or feel unsure about where you're heading. It's easy to lose steam when you don't have a clear sense of why you're doing it in the first place. But when Diane took a step back and asked herself why she wanted to declutter, everything changed. She realized that her goal wasn't just to clear her home of excess stuff. It was to create a more peaceful, welcoming space for her family. Diane imagined her grandkids running around the living room, free from the clutter that had once taken over. She pictured relaxing evenings in a cozy, organized space where she could finally enjoy the time with her loved ones without feeling overwhelmed. When you have a clear vision, you have a deeper sense of purpose. Maybe your vision is to create a relaxing retreat where you can unwind, or perhaps you want to make space for new hobbies or experiences. Whatever it is, keeping that vision in mind will help you stay motivated when the process gets tough. Ask yourself, why are you decluttering? Is it for more freedom in your space, to simplify your life and make room for new experiences, to create a welcoming home for your loved ones? Once you define your vision, you'll have a guiding light to keep you focused and motivated. Remember, it's not just about getting rid of things. It's about creating a space that aligns with your life's purpose right now. So keep that vision close to your heart and let it drive you forward. What's your vision for your space after decluttering? Share it in the comments below. We'd love to hear how you're turning your home into a place that serves you. Mistake number 8. Letting guilt hold you back. This one hits close to home for so many of us. Diane had several items in her home that she didn't use but kept out of guilt. There was the gift from a well-meaning friend that had never been her style, the vase from her aunt that was beautiful but didn't fit anywhere in her space, and the old couch her children insisted she keep because it has sentimental value. Diane struggled with the idea of letting these things go because she felt like it would be disrespectful or like she was throwing away the memories attached to them. We all have those items, the ones that feel too sentimental, too important, or too tied to a relationship to part with. The truth is, it's easy to let guilt hold you back from decluttering. You might feel like you're betraying someone or dishonoring a special memory by letting go of something you've been gifted or inherited. But here's the important realization. Keeping something out of guilt doesn't honor the memory or the relationship. In fact, it can weigh you down, making it harder to truly enjoy the things you do love. The solution Diane found was to practice gratitude. Instead of holding on to the gift out of obligation, she took a moment to thank the person who gave it to her. She acknowledged the love and thoughtfulness behind it and allowed herself to let go. By practicing gratitude for each item, whether it was a gift, a family heirloom, or something she no longer needed, Diane was able to release the guilt and find peace in letting go. Remember, letting go of an item doesn't erase the memory, the love, or the significance attached to it. It simply allows you to move forward, free up space, and create room for the things that truly serve you. So, if guilt is holding you back, try shifting your perspective. Practice gratitude for the item, honor the memory or the relationship, and then release it. It's a powerful way to let go without regret. Diane's decluttering journey didn't happen overnight, but with each step, she made incredible progress. By following the tips and strategies we've talked about, Diane was able to transform her home from a chaotic, clutter-filled space into a peaceful, cozy sanctuary. Her living room, once piled high with unused furniture and knickknacks, was now an inviting space where she could sit with her family and enjoy the simple moments. Her guest room, which had once been a storage area for everything she didn't know what to do with, was now a welcoming retreat for her friends and loved ones. The clutter was gone, but the memories and the joy remained, making her home a place where she could finally relax and feel at peace. Diane learned that decluttering wasn't just about getting rid of things. It was about creating a life that felt lighter, freer, and more aligned with her current self. She now has space for the things that truly matter. Whether it's quality time with her family, moments of quiet reflection, or simply enjoying the beauty of a well-organized home. If Diane can do it, so can you. You have the power to create a space that serves you, that supports your well-being, and that makes you feel at peace. Remember, the journey is personal, and it's okay to take it one step at a time. Now, it's your turn. Take these steps and start your own transformation. A clutter-free home isn't just about physical space. It's about mental and emotional freedom too. If you found these tips helpful, hit that like button and share this video with someone who needs it. And don't forget to subscribe for more life advice tailored just for you. Keep moving forward, and soon enough, you'll have the space you've always dreamed of.